heavens to give rain for your land in its proper time, and to bless all the works of your hands. You will lend to many nations, but you will not borrow. For the Lord your God has blessed you as he has promised you. You will make loans to many nations, but you will not require loans. You will dominate many nations, but they will not rule over you. Fortunate are you, Israel. Who is like you, a people delivered by the Lord? Your helping shield and the sword of your glory. Your enemies will deny their identity before you, and you shall tread upon their high places. Israel will be delivered by the Lord with an everlasting deliverance. You will not be disgraced nor humiliated forever and ever. You will eat and be satiated and praise the name of the Lord your God, who has dealt with you wondrously, and my people will never be put to shame. A good vach, Shavua Tov, a good week. How's everybody doing? Amazing to start the new week by learning together on a Saturday night. East Coast people, I'm in awe. Let's light up the darkness. Who's in the house? Sharon in New Jersey. Way past midnight. Wow. Paul in the Great Northwest. Melissa in Great Neck, New York. Shandora in the Bronx. Nancy in North Carolina. Bella in Florida. Amazing, amazing. Belle, you're not late. David in Indiana. Yosef in Massachusetts, right? Amazing, guys. Amazing. Your dedication is noted. Aoife in Florida, Lynn in North Texas, Michelle says Shalom and Shavua Tov. Tonight, we open chapter 4 here in Tractate Gittin, the 19th volume of the Talmud. These are the laws of divorce and very interesting related matters as we will start to open tonight. Here in chapter 4 with Mishna number 1, our Daf is Lamed Beis, page 32. Opening chapter 4, Mishnah number 1. In the case of one who sends a bill of divorce, a get, to his wife with an agent, and he reached the agent, or where he sent another agent after him, and he said to the agent delivering the bill of divorce, the bill of divorce that I gave you, it is void. Right? So get the picture. The husband is sending a get to his wife by way of an agent. And after he sends the get away, he thinks, what am I doing? When that get reaches my wife, our marriage will be over. We will be divorced. No, I don't want to do that. Can he change his mind? If he reaches the agent in time and stops him, or if he appoints a second agent who reaches that first agent in time and says, no, the husband changed his mind, don't deliver the get to the wife. Okay, so then the get is void and the husband is not divorced because he stopped the get from reaching the wife. And so the get is void. Similarly, if the husband reached his wife before the get reached her, or in a case where he sent an agent to her and he said, or he had the agent say to his wife, the bill of divorce that I sent to you, it is void. Then this bill of divorce is hereby void. However, if he stated this once the get had entered her possession, too late. He can no longer render it void as the divorce has already taken effect. They could remarry, but they would have to remarry. The divorce takes effect when the get enters her possession. The Mishnah relates that initially, before the sages made this decree that this was the only way to stop a get, initially, a husband who wished to render the get void would convene a court elsewhere and render the get void in the presence of the court before it reached his wife. And Rabban Gamliel the elder instituted an ordinance that one should not do this. Why? For Tikkun HaOlam, the betterment of the world. And the Gemara will explain what this means. Give me a second. It's very hot in here. Move my jacket. You don't mind if we get a little less formal, do you? Okay. Don't need that either. Okay, so very commonly heard term throughout the Jewish world, even non-religious people have heard of Tikkun Olam. Tikkun Olam, the rectification of the world. These days, that term is very often associated with social justice, social action, doing good in the world is a form of repairing the world. And this idea of Tikkun Olam has its roots firmly in Jewish mysticism and Kabbalah. And this idea that the Jews are on a mission in the world to be a light unto the nations and to help elevate the world into a proper and fitting home for God's presence. And if perhaps we could do that, then maybe even a little bit ahead of its time, Mashiach, the Messiah, will come and institute the Messianic age. And there's a lot to be said about that. That is definitely beyond the scope of this class because that's Tikkun Olam. Tonight we're talking about Tikkun HaOlam, right? Repairing world versus repairing or rectifying the world. Now, when we talk about the Olam, HaOlam, Tikkun HaOlam, there we're not, the word Olam, can certainly mean the world, the universe, the earth, but very often, in from circles, right, in religious circles, when we talk about the Olam, we're talking about the community, the people, and perhaps in a broader sense, the Jewish people. So what it is that Rabban Gamliel the Elder instituted, where we're going to start to learn a few decrees here in this chapter 4, were rabbinic decrees that sort of went beyond the letter of the law as stated in the written Torah, but which would create a benefit for the Jewish people. So this is one of them, and then we're going to hear a few others. So this idea that if a husband sent a get with an agent to deliver it to his wife, and then the agent took off, and then the husband said, "What am I doing? I don't want to divorce my wife." And he can't catch the agent in time, but he truly changed his mind. He doesn't want that get to be valid anymore. So initially, before this decree was instituted by the sages, he could convene a rabbinic court or go before a rabbinic court and say, "I changed my mind. The get that I sent with my agent, I declare it void." And then the rabbis of that rabbinic court, the judges, would note the time that he said that. And as long as he said it before the get reached the wife, so then they're not divorced, right? They're not divorced. And when the wife thought she received the get, what she received was nothing, an invalid document that had already been rendered void. What's the problem with that system? Especially if you imagine that the get is sent a long distance within Israel or from overseas into Israel or from overseas to another place overseas. In ancient times, the travel time of that agent could be weeks, could be months. And then the wife receives the get and says, "Okay, my marriage is over. I'm divorced." And then there's a Johnny-come-lately, handsome, nice, good friend of hers who says, "Well, now that you're free, let's get married. Your first marriage. I honor you properly. Married." And they have a child. But the divorce was not a divorce. The get was void before it reached her. And she remarried based on a get that wasn't a get. So the second marriage is not a marriage. And they are basically children of adultery. And they're prohibited. Jews are prohibited from marrying them. They're Jews in every sense of the word, but they're prohibited from marrying other Jews because each one is a mamzer, a product of adultery, because the second marriage was not a marriage. So to prevent this from happening, we're having internet problems, aren't we? We are experiencing latency. Why, Lord, why? It's a really fascinating class. I don't want to have these Facebook glitches. I don't know why. I don't know why this happens. Nothing has changed. It's the same system we use every day. Hold on a second. On the YouTube side, are we having glitches? Let me know. I'm just pausing a moment to see how we're doing with these glitches. Let's give it a second. It seems like the YouTube is running pretty smoothly, from what I can tell. Okay, somebody let me know over there on the YouTube side if you're experiencing glitches. Let me know, just put it in the comments. Sometimes this thing fixes itself if we wait long enough. But I'm not sure I like our... Yeah, problems here too. Okay, folks, I really apologize. Over here in Anaheim, not so bad, okay. So slight problems, little skips, I think, on the YouTube side. But Facebook, maybe getting a little bit better now. I can't understand it. I just can't understand why this happens. Just checking, no, I can't change the settings while it's streaming. But maybe it's gotten a little better. Now I'm on the Facebook side. Is it getting a little bit better? Is this stream a little bit smoother over there now? So weird. You know, we pay a lot of money to have like the fastest possible internet. Like, that's not the issue. You know, we have like that 1 megabit speed or gigabit or whatever, 1 gigabit speed. Okay, so slight glitches there, but not too bad. On the YouTube side, Facebook, I think people are moving over to YouTube. There's the link. Nina put it in the comments. All right, I'm going to just try and muscle along. Okay, seems to be a little bit better now. Okay. All right. So, as I was saying, it used to be, before the sages enacted this decree, that a husband could regret sending a get to his wife, convene a rabbinic court, tell him the get is void, and then when she receives it, it's not a get. But she doesn't know that, right? She doesn't know that. She's only going to find out later. And if on the basis of the get that she thinks is a get, which is not a get, she remarries, terrible problem. The marriage is not a marriage. The children of that second union are mamzers. Other Jews can't marry them. Disaster. So Rabban Gamliel, the elder, instituted, no, you cannot the husband cannot render a get void just by convening a rabbinic court and telling them it's void. The only way he can stop a get is to literally stop the get. He has to chase down the agent that he sent or reach the wife before the agent, and that's the only way to stop the get. That already sounds like a movie, right? The guy sends the get, he's furious, realizes he shouldn't have done it, and now it's a race against time to reach his wife before the agent of delivery with the get reaches her. But this decree, right, that would stop that situation from happening and abolishing the idea of rendering a get void by declaring it void in front of a rabbinic court, was instituted as a Tikkun HaOlam. Tikkun HaOlam, for the betterment of the world. And in this case, Olam is the Jewish community, right? For the betterment of the Jewish community, for the benefit of the Jewish community. That is Mishnah number 1 here in chapter 4. Here's the Gemara. The Mishnah states that if one sends a bill of divorce with an agent and then meets the agent and renders void the bill of divorce in his presence, then it is void. And the Gemara points out the Mishnah does not teach he reached the agent after pursuing him. Rather, he reached the agent, meaning, and even if he reached him incidentally Without intent, he renders the bill of divorce void with his statement. And we do not say that in that case he intends only to vex his wife and does not actually intend to render the bill of divorce void. To vex his wife? What does that mean, to vex his wife? Rashi explains that there are cases where the husband intends to vex his wife, right, to upset her, to anger her, by delaying her receipt of the bill of divorce and giving it to her at a later date. Others understand that he would wish to torment her with uncertainty, as she will not know if he intends to divorce her or not, keeping her in limbo. But we're not going to be concerned about that when we say that if he reaches his agent, whether he's purposely chasing him down to stop him from delivering the get, or he happens to run into him and says, you know what, did you deliver that get to my wife? No, I didn't. Don't deliver it to her. I changed my mind. Either way, he can render the get void in that manner. But bottom line, he can only render the get void by stopping it from reaching his wife. The Gemara asks, why do I need the Mishna to state that the bill of divorce is void when he reached the agent, or in a case where he sent another agent after him? The legal status of a person's agent is like that of himself. So it seems obvious that just as the husband can nullify the agency of his first agent, so too can the second agent nullify the agency of the first agent. And the Gemara answers, this principle was stated lest you say that the agency of the latter, the second agent, is not stronger than the agency of the former, the first agent, and that the latter agent cannot nullify the agent of the first agent, and only the husband can nullify it. Therefore, the Mishnah teaches us that the second agent can nullify the agency of the first agent. So the Gemara continues and asks, why do I need the Mishnah to teach a case where a husband reached his wife before the bill of divorce reached her? It is obvious that a husband can render void the get before it reaches his wife. And the Gemara explains this principle was stated lest you say that when we don't say that he intends only to vex her, like in the case above, and the get is in fact void, this matter applies only when he said to the agent that the get is void. However, if he said that to her, he certainly intends only to vex her, and he does not actually intend to render the bill of divorce void. Therefore, the Mishnah teaches us that even in this case, the get is void. Imagine a horrible husband who would, now that he's decided to divorce his wife, wants to make her suffer, stress her out, and goes and tells her, yeah, that get that you're going to receive, it's not a get. And then when the get arrives, he's like, no, I was kidding, it is a get. We're not going to be concerned that we have to, create laws to prevent that, because that's such a rare occurrence. So if the husband says to her, the get that's coming is not a get, that's it. End of story. It's not a get. That actually does protect her from that situation. If he wants to then write a get, he's going to have to do it again. Now, does he have to write a second get? We're going to come to that question a little bit later. But the point is that the husband can render void the get by chasing down the agent of delivery or reaching his wife first. Now, because remember, writing a get doesn't divorce his wife. Writing a get, signing it in front of witnesses, having witnesses signing, and then taking that get and delivering it into the wife's possession in front of witnesses, that's what creates the divorce. So if he stops the get from reaching her, they're not divorced. The Gemara continues and asks, why do I need the Mishnah to state, or where he sent an agent to her, which, as stated above, means that the legal status of a person's agent is like that of himself? The Gemara answers, it is necessary, lest you say that he would not exert himself with the sole intent to vex her by informing her falsely that the get is void. However, with regard to the agent, as the husband does not care if he exerts himself for no reason, and the husband certainly intends only to vex her when he sends an agent and not actually render the get void, the Mishnah therefore teaches us we don't have to worry about that possibility. He can stop the get. The Mishnah states further, if he stated this once the get had entered her possession, he can no longer render it void. Right? That makes sense. Once it has reached her possession, they're divorced. He can't say, no, I changed my mind. Then it's too late. And the Gemara asks, isn't this obvious? Once the bill of divorce has entered her possession, they are divorced. And the Gemara answers, no, it is necessary for the Mishnah to state that even in a case where he was going around searching for the get from the beginning in order to render it void before it reached his wife, Once it enters her possession, it is too late. But you might have thought, well, he changed his mind. He wanted to stop it. He did everything he could to stop the get, but he just couldn't find the agent of delivery. He couldn't reach his wife in time, and the get got there just ahead of him. He said, no, I've been trying to stop it. Forget it. I didn't mean it. Too late. Lest you say, once he renders the get void, even after it had entered her possession, it has become clear retroactively that he intended to void it from the time that he sent it and regretted it before it reached his wife. Therefore, the Mishna teaches us that since the get was rendered void only after it had entered her possession, they are divorced. The sages taught if a husband made one of the following statements with regard to the get that he sent: it is void. Battel hu, it is void. Or, I do not desire it. Then his statement takes effect and the get is void. However, if he said it is invalid or it is not a bill of divorce, then it is as though he said nothing. So let's compare these statements. If the husband reaches the agent of delivery, or he reaches the wife before the get reaches her, and he says about the get, it is void, so then he canceled the get, they're not divorced. But if he says about the get, it is invalid, then he has said nothing at all. It is still a valid get, and if it reaches her, they are divorced. What's the difference between it is void and it is invalid? It is void is a declarative statement. I hereby render it void. It is invalid is a descriptive statement where the husband is commenting on the legal validity of the get that was written. And he's saying, it's as if he's saying, no, that was not a validly written get. Something was wrong in its procedure. I didn't sign it. The witnesses didn't sign it. The witnesses were disqualified, something like that. And he is not a legal authority. Even if he is a legal authority, he can't say that as a means of voiding the get. There might be a legal problem with that get, and he might be describing that. But if it's a properly written get, stating that it is invalid does not invalidate it. Likewise, if he says, I do not desire it, then he has voided the get. But if he says, it is not a get, then he has said nothing because it is a get. The Gemara asks, is this to say that the formulation battel, which means nullify, it is a prescriptive formulation that means let it become void, and not a descriptive formulation that means that the bill of divorce is already void? That's what I just said to you. Yes, that's what it means. But didn't Rabba bar Avu say that Rav Sheshes said, and some say Rabba bar Avu says, with regard to one who receives a get, who after the gift had entered it, after the gift. So with regard to one, we're going to compare to the law of gifts, right? Rabba bar Avu say, didn't Rabba bar Avu say that Rav Sheshes said, and some say that Rabba bar Avu says, with regard to one who receives a gift, who after the gift had entered his possession said, this gift is rendered void, or if he said, let it become void, or if he said, I do not desire it, it is as though he said nothing. The one who receives the gift wants to void the gift, but what's the problem? It already entered his possession. If at the time that somebody offered him the gift, he said, I don't want it, I won't take it, that I don't think he's voiding the gift, he's just saying, I reject it. Right? But once the gift has already entered his possession, he received the gift. And he cannot say, let the gift become void. That's a different area of the law. It's obviously different than a husband who says about a get before it enters the wife's possession, let it be void. I don't want that get, I don't desire it. Versus a recipient of a gift who says, let the gift be void, I do not desire it, but he already received it, right? But still, they're comparing these two areas of the law. It is as though the gift receiver has said nothing. He has already acquired the gift and he cannot undo his acquisition. However, if he said it is void, or that he had never agreed to acquire the gift in the first place, this is where the descriptive versus the prescriptive matters. right? The one who says about a gift, it is not a gift. What he's saying is, it was never a gift. I never accepted it. I did not accept that gift. You might think I accepted it, but I didn't accept it. So his statement is effective. If he claims he never accepted it, that he rejected it from the outset, that I did, meaning I received it, but now I changed my mind, that is something that the gift receiver cannot do. And this is the opposite of the husband regarding the get. He can say, let it be void, and his statement is effective. If he says it is not a get, his statement is not effective. Where am I? So apparently this word battel, right, which like bitul, battel means to nullify, is that it is void from the beginning, and not that it should become void in opposition to the baraisa, because in that law of the gift receiver, he says, no, it was never a gift. So the word battel seems to mean it was void from the beginning rather than I hereby make it void. Abaye said this word, right, this syntax of the word bitul, which we're talking about, battel has two potential meanings depending on the context. Now we're on 32b. It means that it was void already. And it also means that it will become void in the future. Depending on the context, the same word can have two different meanings. With regard to a get, he stated the formulation that is effective with regard to it, to the law of the get. And since his statement can be understood to mean but with regard to a gift, he stated the formulation that is effective with regard to it, where battel is used to describe the fact that I never received this gift in the first place. I always rejected it. More glitches. Seems to be okay now. I'll try to pause when the glitches are happening. And I thought I reset the whole system. I did reset the whole system. I reset the whole system every night, so we won't have glitches. Anyway. Additionally, Abaye said, with regard to the relationship between a get and a gift, we have a tradition. An agent sent to deliver a gift is considered like an agent sent to deliver a get. And the Gemara explains, the practical difference that is learned from this is that if one says to his agent, take this gift to so-and-so, it is not considered as if he said to him, acquire the gift on behalf of so-and-so. Therefore, as long as the gift has not yet reached the intended recipient, the one who sent the gift can retract it. And it is not as if the intended recipient had taken possession of the gift from the moment that it was given to the agent. Wife, has the agent acquired the get on behalf of the wife? No, she's not divorced until the get reaches her possession. But because of the enactment for the purpose of Tikkun HaOlam of Rabban Gamliel the elder, the husband cannot retract the get without reaching that agent and stopping him. That's the difference between a get and a gift. Now the Gemara relates, Ravina found Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak as he was leaning on the bar of a door deep in thought, and Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak was considering the following dilemma. What is the law if a husband said only, this get, it is void? Okay, what's the difference between a husband saying this get is void and a husband saying this get, it is void? Does he mean to render the get void from that point onward, which he has the ability to do? Or is he merely noting the fact that this get is void, in which case his statement does not affect the validity of the document? Has he made a prescriptive statement, I'm hereby voiding it? Or has he made a descriptive statement, it is void from the outset, in which case he has said nothing because that's not his role to do? No answer is given to this question, therefore the dilemma taiku shall stand unresolved. Rav Shesha said, and some say that it was taught in a baraisa, that if the husband said one of these phrases, this get shall not be effective, shall not release, shall not cause to leave, shall not send away, shall not divorce, shall be pottery, or shall be like pottery, In all these cases, his statement is effective. He has made a prescriptive statement that stops the get from being effective. When he reached the agent and he said, this get is void, it's over. If, however, the husband used one of the following formulations, this bill of divorce has no effect, does not release, does not cause to leave, does not send away, does not divorce, it is pottery, or it is like pottery, then it is as though he has said nothing. He made a descriptive statement about a get that he believed to be legally invalid, but he himself did not render it invalid, and that's why he has said nothing. A dilemma was raised before the sages. What is the law if he said, it is hereby pottery? Why are we talking about pottery? Well, because we've learned that you could write a get on a shard of pottery if you want. So he could be saying, this get that was written on a shard of pottery, it is just pottery, not a get anymore. Right? But if he just says it is pottery, that's ineffective. If he says it shall be pottery, that is effective. What if he says it is hereby pottery? Is his intention to make a descriptive statement that the bill of divorce is not valid, or does he intend to render it void? Ravina said to Rav Acha, the son of Rava, and some say that Rav Acha, the son of Rava, said to Rav Ashi. In what way is this formulation different from saying about one's property, it is hereby consecrated property, or it is hereby ownerless? These are prescriptive statements, where it is clear that his intention is to designate the items as consecrated or ownerless property, meaning he has effected a status change. With regard to gets as well, his statement is effective, and it renders the get void. The Gemara asks, if the husband rendered void a get, can he go back and divorce his wife with it? He sent the get, he caught the agent, he said, this get in your hand is hereby void. The agency has ended. We do not deliver that get to the wife. If he did deliver the get to the wife, they would not be divorced with it because the husband rendered it void by stopping the agent in time. So presumably the get would never reach her. The husband takes it back. He says, this get is hereby void. So now he's got a get that he himself wrote for his wife. And then he stopped the process and said, I hereby render it void. A little more time goes by and he says, you know what? This marriage is no good. It's not working out. I wanted to divorce her. I changed my mind. I was right the first time. I'm going to divorce her. The get that he voided, can he use it? Or must he write out a new get? What do you think? Let's see what the Gemara says. Can he go back and divorce his wife with it, since perhaps he did not actually render void the get, but only nullified the agency for its delivery? It's not that he rendered the get itself an invalid legal document. It's that he stopped his agent from delivering it. When he said that get is void, it is hereby void, that get shall be void, he stopped the agent from delivering it. But did he affect the status change in the document itself? Maybe he only canceled the agency. Or perhaps he may not go back and divorce her with it, as the get itself was rendered void. What is the answer? Rav Nachman says he may go back and divorce her with it. And Rav Sheshes says he may not go back and divorce her with it. And the Gemara concludes, and the halacha, the law, is in accordance with the opinion of Rav Nachman, that the get may be used, and that is the law. He only, by saying this get shall be void, or is hereby rendered void, what he did is he canceled the agent's mission to go deliver it to the wife. But the legal document is still valid, and he could appoint a new agent, or maybe even reappoint the old agent, or just take it himself to her, and he could use it to divorce her. The Gemara asks, is that so? But don't we maintain that the halakha is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan, who said if a man gives a woman money for betrothal and says that the betrothal will take effect after 30 days, the woman can retract her agreement within the 30 days and decide that she does not wish to be betrothed. And Rabbi Yochanan holds that as long as the change in status has not yet taken effect, she may nullify her earlier agreement by stating a retraction. Therefore, here too, when the husband states that the bill of divorce should be rendered void, since the divorce had not taken effect, it should be rendered void. But the Gemara rejects this argument. How can these cases be compared? There, in the case of betrothal, it is speech that accepts the betrothal and speech that retracts her acceptance. Therefore, her speech comes and nullifies her previous speech. As the woman first stated that she agreed to the betrothal and then stated afterward that she retracted her agreement. But here, in the case of a husband sending a get, which is in writing, even though it is true that the husband rendered void the agency of the agent, does he also render void the get itself? Since the get is a tangible written object, it cannot be made void through speech alone. The Mishna taught that initially a husband who wished to render void the bill of divorce would convene a court, even if he had already sent the document with an agent, and render the get void in the presence of the court. And it was stated, when the husband would state the get should be void in the presence of how many people, must he render it void? Interesting, right? We've already agreed from the outset of our discussion of this Mishnah, the Mishnah itself, that is a previous state of affairs which Rabban Gamliel the elder changed, and then the law became different, and we no longer allow a husband to render void a get that he sent with an agent after he sent it, unless he stops the get from reaching his wife. But before that enactment came to be, and he could just go in front of a court and say, I hereby render it void, then even though she won't know when the get reaches her, the get won't be a get and they won't be divorced. So when the law was like that, how many judges had to be sitting in that rabbinic court when the husband says, I hereby render the get void? Perfect example that even in Talmudic times, they studied laws that even then had been changed, but they wanted to have clear understanding of how they worked before the change, right? Now we don't have a temple in our midst, and there's so many laws that we're unable to follow because we can't bring sacrifices, for instance, and we don't separate teruma and give it to priests, and so many laws that we're just not able to fulfill now. But we take their study just as seriously. And likewise, our sages 1,500 to 2,000 years ago studied the laws that were no longer possible to fulfill with just as much seriousness. So, when that was possible to render it void in this manner, how many judges had to be in that Beis Din? Let's find out. Rav Nachman says he must render it void, or he had to render it void in the presence of 2 people. Rav Sheshes said he had to render it void in the presence of 3 people. And the Gemara explains the reasoning of each of these Amoraim, rabbis of the Gemara. Rav Sheshes said that he must do so in the presence of 3 people because the Mishnah teaches that this takes place in the presence of a court. And a court consists of 3 judges. And Rav Nachman says that it may be done in the presence of 2 people, as 2 people are also called a court, and in exigent circumstances, one may rely on this. Exigent meaning right? Like initially, you may not do that. Ab initio, you may not do that, but if you did do it, it's still valid. Rav Nachman said, from where do I say that 2 people are also called a court? As we learned in a Mishnah, when one creates a document that prevents the Shemitah year, the sabbatical year, from abrogating an outstanding debt, this is called a prosbul. He states, I transfer to you in your presence so and so and so and so the judges in such and such a place, in order that I will collect any debt that I am owed by so and so whenever I wish. Okay, a prosbul was another rabbinic enactment that was made Tikkun HaOlam, right, for the betterment of the Jewish community. And this was the idea that the sabbatical year, every 7 years, would cancel debts. So as you got close to the sabbatical year, poor people had a very tough time getting loans to start a business or to deal with a medical emergency or whatever they needed to do. They couldn't get a loan because the people with money knew that you could lend to this poor person. He'd never have to pay you back once the sabbatical year kicked in. So to help the poor people have credit and be able to obtain loans, they created this rabbinical legal device called the prosbul, where the lender and the borrower would go before a court, and say that I am lending this money to so and so, and I'm transferring the credit, as it were, right? Instead of owing me the money, he's gonna owe that money to the court, and then the court will turn around and pay me. The effect is the same. The loan is still the loan. It's still gonna end up being paid back to the lender. But because it's made officially a loan to the court, that the obligation is to the court will then, transfer the money to the lender. It is not canceled in the sabbatical year. And that's called a prosbul, and it was enacted as one of these Tikkun HaOlam measures. And in that situation, it looks like you could do it in front of two witnesses who would become the court for the purpose of the prosbul. And Rav Sheshes would respond to this: is that to say that the Tana, the rabbi of the Mishna, should have continued counting judges like a peddler? The Tana twice used the expression so-and-so because he wished to note that one should mention the judges' names, but he did not intend to teach anything about the number of judges. And Rav Nachman said, I'm almost done, questions or comments, get them in. Rav Nachman said, from where do I say that two judges are also considered a court? As we learned in the Mishna with regard to a prosbul, the judges sign below the text of the prosbul, or the witnesses do so. What, is it not possible to deduce? The Mishna means that the judges are similar to witnesses. Just as there are two witnesses, right? We've learned over and over again, when witnesses are needed, almost always, that means two witnesses. So too, here, there are also two judges. And Rav Sheshes would respond to this: are the cases comparable? This case of the judges is as it is, and that case of the witnesses is as it is. Each one with its respective requirement of 3 or 2 members. So the Gemara asks with regard to the Mishnah in Tractate Shavuot, what we're talking about the prosbul, why do I need the Tana to teach that it can be signed by judges, and why do I need them to teach that it can be signed by witnesses as well? Why is it necessary to mention both? And Gemara answers, this teaches us that there is no difference if the prosbul is written in the terminology of judges and witnesses sign it, and there's no difference if it is written in the terminology of witnesses and judges sign it. What is important is that the prosbul was written and that it is signed by the court, and the precise wording is unimportant. So we haven't really determined when a husband could cancel the get that he sent by an agent by appearing in front of a court, how many judges had to be sitting on that court. That's our little cliffhanger for the next time we meet. And that is not tomorrow, Sunday. Nina and I are having a little romantic holiday. The two of us, the kids, are out of the nest. And it's just us, and we're having a little holiday. So it would appear that we're going to be back. The next class will reconvene this Thursday, unless it becomes Friday. It's either Thursday or Friday, and we'll put a post in the next, we'll put it on Facebook to announce when the class is going to reconvene, and maybe we'll send an email as well. But we're taking a few days off, and we'll come back and probably do a highlight show when we come back. That's what I've got for us this evening. Have a wonderful week. And by the way, Monday and Tuesday, Rosh Chodesh Tammuz. May the new month of Tammuz, which begins tomorrow night, Sunday night, fill your lives with blessing. And we say Amen. Good Vach. Shavua Tov. Have a good week. And good Chodesh.